My stepsister Yue Qing and the Duke of Anling share a profound connection that moves all who witness it. He refuses to consume meat from female birds or cattle, all in devotion to her. Whenever my elder brother encounters Yue Qing, he sighs wistfully, lamenting that she isn't his blood sister. Everyone cherishes her. Yet no one recalls that the Duke of Anling was once promised to me. He harbored no affection for me, yet personally petitioned the emperor for our marriage decree, then orchestrated a cunning trap to expose me in a compromising situation, all to elevate Yue Qing to legitimate daughter status. When my honor was destroyed and I ended my existence with a silk rope, they celebrated a magnificent wedding procession stretching 10 miles, the envy of the entire capital. Later, my brother discovered the truth but chose silence, merely sighing that I was unlucky and could never compare to Yue Qing. Reborn on the day the marriage decree arrived, this time no one will see their wishes granted. By heaven's will and the emperor's command, the eldest daughter of the Lin family, gentle and virtuous, graced with elegance and wisdom, is hereby betrothed to the Duke of Anling. Mother joyfully presented a generous reward to the palace eunuch who delivered the decree. My daughter will soon become a duchess. The imperial proclamation never specified my name. Because I am the only legitimate daughter of the Lin family, everyone naturally assumed this arrangement was intended for me. I forced a brittle smile, knowing I was the sole person who understood the truth behind this marriage. My elder brother spoke with a stern expression. Mother, Mingzhu has an impetuous nature. Before the wedding, you must properly guide her so she doesn't embarrass us after joining the Duke's household. If only it were Yue Qing instead. Perhaps I alone comprehended his unspoken desire. He wished the decree had named Yue Qing. Despite sharing the same mother, he clearly favored the gentle and docile Yue Qing. She would sweetly address him as brother and thoughtfully craft embroidered pouches, shoes, and socks for him. Meanwhile, I knew only pleasure and leisure. I observed Yue Qing sitting beside me, the youngest daughter in our household. Though born to a concubine, she was raised by grandmother since infancy and never wanted for material comfort. Today she wore a pale brocade dress with delicate patterns, understated yet luxurious, making her appear exceptionally refined and lovely. She had always seemed timid before, and I had never paid her much attention. At this moment, there was no happiness on her face either. Naturally not, for she had long been secretly entangled with the Duke of Anling. Now others congratulated me instead. Of course she felt displeased. I sat before my mirror and touched my neck. The skin was smooth as jade, unmarred by the horrifying bruises from my previous existence. In my past life, also on this day, the Duke of Anling requested the marriage decree without consulting me. At that time, I had already fallen for Shen Yuan. But I understood that imperial decrees could not be defied. I couldn't bring catastrophe upon my entire family because of personal feelings. So I buried all my emotions and prepared to dutifully become the Duke's wife. Just as I was severing ties with Shen Yuan, I encountered the Duke strolling with my brother. He exploded with rage on the spot, declaring that the Lin family looked down upon him. He is the emperor's trusted confidant, the youngest duke in the dynasty. The Lin family cannot afford to offend him. My father nearly beat me to death in his fury. Eventually, grandmother made the decision. My reputation is ruined and the Duke would never willingly marry me. Yet we cannot defy the imperial decree. Let Yue Qing be registered as the legitimate daughter and married to the Duke instead. We will provide a lavish dowry, which can be considered compensation for both Yue Qing and the Duke. It truly takes grandmother's wisdom. Without you, this household would collapse entirely, father said obsequiously. I didn't care for Yue Qing, but I still felt remorse toward her. The trouble I caused forced her to clean up my mess and even implicated Shen Yuan. Father cursed me, demanding why I didn't simply die, and my brother accused me of having no shame. A white silk rope became my final destiny. After death, I did not enter reincarnation but instead drifted around the Lin residence. Yue Qing shed a single tear over my passing. Second sister was truly pitiful. Grandmother held her close and consoled her. Qing'e is too kind-hearted. It's also Mingzhu's fault for not knowing proper conduct. Since childhood, she has always flaunted her status as the legitimate daughter to bully you. And now she has done something so disgraceful to the family. As for the Duke of Anling, he actually went to such lengths for you. He truly is a devoted man. Yue Qing nodded shyly. He knows I've been mistreated because I'm a concubine's child. So now he has secured legitimate daughter status for me. But will mother be willing? Grandmother smiled faintly. Her daughter did such a thing. How could she have the audacity to object? Besides, when I returned to our ancestral home last time to pay respects, I already changed your status to that of a legitimate daughter. Listening from the shadows, I felt my heart and soul shatter. What a deeply affectionate grandmother and granddaughter pair. So they had long known about what the Duke of Anling had orchestrated. Usually they would preach about how when one prospers, all prosper. When one suffers, all suffer. But at the critical moment, they allowed an outsider to destroy my reputation. If Shen Yuan and I are considered shameless, then she and the Duke must be seen as having a profound bond. The Duke wanted to make Yue Qing a legitimate daughter. But Yue Qing had already become one long ago without anyone knowing. Why go through all this trouble to scheme against me? Mother would definitely not agree. If I die, Mother and my brother will surely investigate and not let the Duke have his way. I drifted toward Mother's chamber. Mother, Mingzhu is already dead. The most important thing now is to ensure the marriage alliance with the Duke remains intact. My brother showed no trace of grief in his eyes, as if the deceased were merely an insignificant stranger. He earnestly persuaded our mother to give the dowry originally prepared for me to Yue Qing, so that she would have more confidence. Though Mother's eyes were swollen from weeping, she still agreed under my brother's persuasion. After all, the Duke held a high position and could help my brother advance in the future. Such are the bonds of family. I watched numbly as I was hastily buried. Half a year later, the entire household joyfully sent Yue Qing off to her wedding with a dowry stretching 10 miles, making everyone envious. Looking at the vibrant face in the mirror, I couldn't help but laugh aloud. Ha ha. Ha ha. Miss, what's wrong with you? I curved my lips. It's nothing. I just thought of something amusing. Every day Mother would pull me aside and tell me about the dowry she had prepared for me. Today it was a pearl necklace from the treasure pavilion. Tomorrow it would be a brocade gown from the cloud embroidery shop. Unlike in my previous life, I didn't feel reluctant or unwilling. Instead, I joyfully showed off my dowry every day. My brother frowned and scolded me. How can you be so shameless? Why can't you learn to be as composed as Qing'er? Yue Qing still smiled timidly. Sister's liveliness is what makes her adorable. I suppose the Duke prefers someone like her. Her eyes could not hide the anxiety. She was afraid I would truly marry the Duke. That day, I received a letter from Shen Yuan saying he was not worthy of me and asking me to forget our relationship. He just wanted to see me one last time to bring closure. I burned the letter without any expression. In my previous life, when we met at the Lingyan temple, we were discovered by the Duke and my brother. When I ended my life with a white silk cord, I was still worried about whether I would implicate him. Later, with the Duke's support, he rose in rank and became wealthy. Once while drunk, the Duke said to him, "Brother, Lin Mingzhu is dead. I owe you a wife, but rest assured, I will definitely compensate you with one." It turned out he had long been in league with the Duke, which was how he coincidentally witnessed our secret meeting. The purpose was to bring our affair into the open so that I, a disgraced legitimate daughter, would have to step aside, allowing Yue Qing to take my place. Although I died through the Duke's manipulations, Shen Yuan accidentally encountered a legitimate daughter of an official family changing her clothes, and the two were forced to become engaged. The legitimate daughter was gentle and virtuous, but after marriage, she was tormented by Shen's mother until she had a miscarriage. Shen Yuan used this as an excuse to take in dozens of beautiful concubines. On the day mentioned in the letter, I did not go. Instead, I sat quietly in my chamber, placing prepared spices into a sachet. My failure to keep the appointment made Yuan anxious, and he sent another letter. "Only when mountains crumble and heaven and earth merge will I dare part from you, Mingzhu. I have no other desires left, only hoping to see you one last time to end my longing. This heart's madness is innate in this world. This sorrow has nothing to do with the wind or moon." When the 7th letter was burned, the Duke could no longer sit still and personally requested to meet with me. I still refused. There will be plenty of opportunities to meet after the wedding. Now that I have little time left at home, I just want to spend it with my parents and fulfill my filial duties. The Duke had no way to refute such reasoning. He wanted to expose the matter between me and Shen Yuan. But he couldn't make a scene that would damage the reputation of the entire Lin family and implicate his beloved Yue Qing. If he wanted Yue Qing to receive everyone's sympathy and compensation while also ensuring I obediently followed his plan, this matter could only be exposed by the Lin family themselves. It's impossible for father and mother to do such a thing. And grandmother prides herself on being fair, so she wouldn't openly do something like this either. That leaves only one person. My brother took out lotus seed cakes from the drunken immortal pavilion and placed them before me. Mingzhu, why haven't you been going out lately? I picked up a piece of osmanthus cake and took a bite. The osmanthus cake is a famous pastry from the drunken immortal pavilion with only 20 portions sold each day, requiring a long queue to obtain. In the past, I never had such treatment. Brother always said I wasn't steady enough and feared I might cause embarrassment after marriage. I think he's right. So I'm taking this time to properly learn etiquette and temper my disposition. In the blink of an eye, you're about to get married. I've been reflecting lately and realized I was too strict with you in the past. Mingzhu, don't worry. No matter what happens, I will always be your support. After marriage, you won't have as much freedom as you do at home. Take advantage of this time to go out and relax a bit more. Such heartfelt words are the first I have ever heard in both my past and present lives. Seeing the concern and reluctance all over his face, I was reminded of the day Yue Qing married the Duke in my previous life. He was dead drunk, muttering under his breath. Qing'er, the Duke truly cares for you. He went through great hardships to secure you the status of a legitimate daughter. Mingzhu is also dead. So from now on, no one will ever compete with you for anything again. You will live a happy life. He knew that the Duke had set me up. Yet he still considered the Duke a friend. My death meant nothing in his eyes. He even felt relieved that my death would only benefit Yue Qing. I don't understand why he is so indifferent to his own sister, until I saw the unconcealable pain in his eyes when he called out Yue Qing's name. I seem to understand. Haha, how absurd this is. He is still earnestly trying to persuade me. I lowered my eyes, pretending to know nothing. Since you say so, brother, I'll go out to relax. Brother, in our previous life, all of you got what you wished for. In this life, it's my turn to have my wishes fulfilled. Although I haven't become smarter since my rebirth and couldn't find a way out for myself, fortunately, I've cut off everyone's escape routes. Behind the Lingyan temple, there is a peach blossom grove. It was March and the peach blossoms were blooming profusely, falling in a flurry. When I arrived, I saw Shen Yuan standing under the tree, tall and graceful, the very picture of refinement and elegance. Who would have thought that beneath such a gentlemanly appearance lay a filthy and despicable heart? Mingzhu, you finally came. Step by step, I walked forward, and under his affectionate gaze, I tightened my grip on the hairpin and plunged it into his chest. In this world, all those who harm women using chastity as a weapon deserve to die. I'm here to send you off on your journey to the underworld. Without waiting for him to say anything, I pushed him off the cliff. I had coated the hairpin with beast-attracting powder. So even if he survived the fall, he might get to experience the feeling of being eaten alive by wild animals. I cleared away all traces, then peacefully admired the flowers under the tree. A quarter of an hour later, the Duke arrived with my brother for a stroll. Seeing me alone, both of them were very surprised. Miss Lin, how come you're alone? Duke, who else would be with me? Could it be that I'm having a secret rendezvous with someone else? I covered my mouth and chuckled lightly. Not at all. Not at all. It's just that it's unsafe for a young lady to go out alone. Miss Lin, you should have someone accompany you. The Duke laughed heartily, showing no trace that a general who fought on the battlefield could be so skilled in domestic scheming with such underhanded methods. We chatted for a while, but the Duke kept looking around, never catching sight of the person he wanted to see. Shen Yuan is already at the bottom of the cliff, perhaps being torn apart by wild beasts at this very moment. I watched the two of them with a smile, thinking about what was to come next, my heart boiling with excitement. Meeting by chance is fate. If you don't mind, my lord, would you like to have a cup of tea together? Lingyan Temple has separate courtyards specifically for resting high-ranking officials and nobles who come to offer incense. With a calm expression, I gracefully brewed tea for them, and they absent-mindedly finished it in one sip. Please wait here for a moment. I also made peach blossom cakes for you both to try. Seeing their faces already flushed, I thoughtfully closed the door for them. Who says only women care about chastity? I want to see if they can still remain good brothers after something like this happens. A quarter of an hour later, hearing the commotion inside from the doorway, I grinned, took a deep breath, and let out a scream that echoed throughout the Lingyan Temple. Ah, what's going on? What happened here? Did a thief break in? Passing pilgrims heard the noise and approached one after another. Hearing the faint sounds from inside the room, everyone had a rough idea of what was happening. The wife of Minister Chen next to me recognized me. Isn't this Miss Lin? What's inside? I just covered my face and wept, unable to utter a single word. Whoever it is, anyone who does such a thing in Lingyan Temple deserves to die. Someone break the door down. Inside the room was a nauseating smell. Everyone covered their noses as they entered, only to see an enormous bed. This is the Duke of Anling and the eldest son of the Lin family. The Duke is a rising star in the Imperial court and her brother is famously upright and principled. So many people know them. One is Miss Lin's brother and the other is Miss Lin's fiancé. This. Let's go and fetch Lord Lin instead. The two on the bed also woke up. Seeing everything before them, the Duke glared at me with murderous eyes. Second Miss Lin. What a ruthless trick. I just covered my mouth and sobbed. You, how shameless. Now that things have come to this, are you trying to silence me by killing me? The crowd clamored. Duke of Anling, why threaten a young girl like this? We all saw what happened today. Do you think you can kill all of us? Miss Lin, you must try to accept this. In the chaos, my father and mother hurried over and took us away. In the Lin family hall, father sat at the head with a gloomy expression, while mother looked dazed, still unable to believe what she had seen. Her perfect, promising eldest son had actually stolen his sister's fiancé. Heavens! What is all this? The Duke recounted the events. How could the second Lin daughter be so cruel and shameless, so short-sighted and devoid of familial affection, to use such despicable means to frame her own family? Truly vile and utterly detestable. My brother was utterly grief-stricken. As a civil official, how could he ever hold his head high in court after such a scandal? Mingzhu, what have I ever done to wrong you that you would seek to ruin my entire life? When father learned of this, he was so enraged he nearly killed me. He slapped me across the face and shouted, "You wretched creature! I should have strangled you at birth. I raised you with the finest food and drink, and this is how you repay me, by trying to destroy our Lin family. I'm not going to stand there and take a hit." I dodged it by tilting my head. Mother cried out in anguish. What is all this for? How did our once happy family end up like this? Ha ha, of course, it's because they plotted against me first. The Duke is in love with Yue Qing. He knew full well that I had someone I loved. Yet he deliberately sought to marry me, then conspired with my brother to catch me in an affair and ruin my reputation. That way, the Lin family would feel guilty toward him, and they could make Yue Qing the legitimate daughter and marry her off to him with a grand dowry. My brother clearly knew the truth, but for the sake of Yue Qing and to build a good relationship with the Duke, not only did he not tell me, but he repeatedly encouraged me to go out just to give the Duke an opportunity to catch me in the act. Brother, am I not your sister? How dare you have the nerve to question me? I held no grudge against them, yet for their own selfish interests, they used the most malicious method against a woman to harm me. If the Duke hadn't been skilled in martial arts, I would have pushed him off the cliff at Lingyan Temple long ago to keep Shen Yuan company. The scene fell into complete silence. The truth was too bizarre for everyone to accept. Mother asked my brother in disbelief, "Is this true?" At this point, there was no use in hiding it any longer. My brother said gravely, "Mother, I did this for Mingzhu's own good. Her temperament is too unruly. She is not suited to marry into the Duke's household." I clapped my hands. Well said, brother. A family should love and care for one another. Since you've been thinking of me, I'm simply returning the favor. You've always wanted to build a good relationship with the Duke. But marrying off one sister isn't a guarantee. Now that you and the Duke have this kind of connection, he will sincerely promote you. My brother's face turned ashen. With this kind of relationship, the faction of upright officials would never accept him again. Over a decade of hard study had been utterly destroyed in a single day. Mother looked left and right, then let out a sharp cry and lunged at Yue Qing, who had been too afraid to make a sound. It's all because of you, you little wretch. If it weren't for you, how could my son's future be completely ruined? Seeing Yue Qing being slapped several times, grandmother could no longer sit still. Stop this. What kind of behavior is all this commotion? What does this have to do with Qing'er? It was Mingzhu who lacked self-restraint and had an affair with someone else first, which gave others the opportunity to take advantage. Grandmother looked at me with contempt. Mingzhu, not only do you show no remorse, but you also plotted against your own brother. Do you understand the principle that when one is honored, all are honored, and when one is disgraced, all are disgraced? If the Lin family's reputation is ruined, what good outcome will you have? I immediately smashed the teacup. Old woman, stop pretending to be innocent here. I haven't even gotten to you yet. The Lin family isn't a marketplace. If even father and mother didn't know about it, how did the Duke find out? It was none other than your precious Qing'er who spilled the beans. When she was spreading her own sister's scandal, why didn't she think about how we rise and fall together? The Duke is having an affair with her. Why aren't you saying she lacks propriety? You, the grandmother who always preaches about rules, weren't you covering up for them all along? I am a person who seeks fame and has no sense of shame. How dare you talk about rules? Grandmother was so angry she nearly fell backward. You're talking nonsense. Qing'er is not that kind of person. Stop slandering her here. I sneered coldly. Whether it's nonsense or not, we'll know after a search. Two people deeply in love must have exchanged plenty of letters and gifts. Grandmother and Yue Qing turned pale but didn't dare to argue any further. Upon hearing that each of his daughters had secret affairs, and even grandmother was involved, father was so angry that he didn't know who to curse. The Duke, however, gazed affectionately at Yue Qing. At this point, I won't hide it anymore. It's Yue Qing I truly wish to marry. After all, the Imperial decree has been issued, and the marriage alliance between our two families is inevitable. Yue Qing was so moved that her eyes welled up with tears. Although the Duke had schemed against her sister and insulted her beloved brother, he had done it all for her. How could such deep affection not be touching? Father was so furious he nearly fainted. If you truly liked Yue Qing, why didn't you just say so? Do you think I would have refused? Now, after causing all this trouble, you still dare to bring up the marriage alliance? Grandmother coughed lightly. I think the Duke truly cares for Yue Qing. Since the matter is already settled, why not just let them be together? Although she had lost one grandson and one granddaughter, her most beloved was Yue Qing. The others didn't matter. The Lin family's reputation was on the verge of collapse. If they didn't hold on to the Duke, Yue Qing would never find such a powerful family in the future. At this point, grandmother no longer cared if others accused her of favoritism. Father has always cared most about the prosperity of the Lin family. Now that his most promising son is ruined, the only way to strengthen the Lin family is through a marriage alliance. Now that the Duke feels indebted to the Lin family, with this leverage in hand, there's no fear that he won't support the Lin family. Seeing that father was tempted, mother immediately flew into a rage. Every single one of you in the Lin family is a heartless, ungrateful wretch. My son and daughter are both ruined, and you want Yue Qing to climb over their backs to rise in status? Dream on. I will never agree to have Yue Qing recorded as a legitimate daughter. If she wants to marry the Duke, she can go as a concubine. Grandmother revealed a triumphant smile. Last time I returned to our hometown to pay respects to our ancestors, I already registered Yue Qing under your name, making her a legitimate daughter. The Duke wants to marry her and none of you can stop it. It's better to be generous and let them be together. Upon hearing this, everyone's faces darkened. Father stepped forward and kicked Yue Qing to the ground. If it weren't for the pressure of filial piety, this kick would have landed on grandmother herself. The Duke wants to marry Yue Qing by making her a legitimate daughter, and grandmother has already registered Yue Qing as a legitimate daughter. You have been in contact, having an affair. If you had just communicated, none of today's events would have happened. Do you think everyone else is a fool? Yes. Something that could have ended happily for everyone. Yet they had to sacrifice others just to prove how deep their bond is. Now look where we are. Let's all forget about saving face. The whole family is being publicly shamed together. Grandmother finally realized she was in the wrong and was speechless for a long time. She had always considered herself the wisest in the family, believing everything was under her control, never expecting that I could stir up so much trouble. My brother looked at everyone with resentment, feeling that all his efforts for Yue Qing were nothing but a joke. But he didn't know yet. It wasn't even time for him to cry. The next day, the Imperial censor impeached the eldest son of the Lin family, Lin Mingzhu, for lacking moral character, having improper private conduct, and showing contempt for the emperor's grace. Those affairs between men were actually not a big deal. If word got out, it would just be one more romantic scandal. The trouble is, the other party is his future brother-in-law. And what's more, this marriage was personally arranged by the emperor. To put it harshly, Lin Mingzhu's actions show a disregard for the imperial decree, which could warrant execution. Father pleaded desperately in the imperial court, but the dignity of the royal family could not be violated. The emperor immediately stripped my brother of his official rank, barring him from ever holding office again. The duke was also severely impeached by the censor. The emperor had long been troubled by the duke's excessive power, and now with a ready-made excuse, he stripped him of his military authority and ordered him to reflect on his mistakes at home. When the news reached the Lin family, mother fainted on the spot, and Lin Mingzhu felt like strangling me. Lin Mingzhu, are you satisfied with my current state? I grinned. Brother, why would you say that? Everything I've done is for your own good. Hearing you speak like this, I truly have no way to defend myself. Lin Mingzhu rolled his eyes and also fainted. The rumors in the capital grew increasingly intense, with some people confidently claiming they had long seen through Lin Mingzhu as a hypocrite. I heard that the Duke of Anling is actually in love with the Lin family's illegitimate daughter. He fell for her at first sight, and all this fuss is just to openly and properly ask for her hand in marriage. Fake news. Who would be so crazy? She's just an illegitimate daughter. Why would he go through all this trouble just to marry her? Your information is outdated. According to my seventh uncle's wife's nephew's aunt's cousin's sister, the Duke has long been exchanging flirtatious glances with Lin Mingzhu. The reason he's seeking to marry the Lin family's legitimate daughter is because the sister resembles her brother. So it's a case of the substitute resembling the beloved. At the same time, major bookstores in the capital were booming. Titles like My Brother Above and I Unfasten My Brother's Battle Robe were in such high demand that the supply couldn't keep up. Counting the shiny silver coins, I couldn't stop smiling and decided to stay up all night to write a few more books. The Lin family's reputation hit rock bottom. A young lady who had once considered an engagement with my brother hastily arranged another marriage. Noble women no longer sent invitations to the Lin family. Father's hair has turned much grayer and mother sighs deeply every day, refusing to see me anymore. She does love me, but compared to Lin Mingzhu, I am not as important. Everyone in the family wishes I were dead, but they dare not act now, afraid of giving others another chance to laugh at us. And I don't regret anything I've done in the slightest. Why is it that when I make a mistake, I get exposed and have to pay the price, while their schemes and plots can be kept hidden forever? We rise and fall together. I repeated this phrase silently and laughed out loud. How true it is. A family should always stick together. 6 months later, Yue Qing still married the Duke after weathering many storms. The lovers were finally united. However, this time there was no grand ceremony like in the previous life. Only a handful of people came to witness the wedding, and the dowry consisted of shabby items merely used to fill the numbers. Before stepping out the door, Yue Qing looked at me with pride, her eyes and brows no longer showing the timidity of the past. Second sister, let me give you a piece of advice. Those who commit many wrongdoings will inevitably bring about their own downfall. I recall in my previous life, she and the Duke shared a deep love after marriage. For her sake, the Duke never glanced at another woman again and replaced all the servants around him with men. He even refused to eat female poultry or livestock. Everyone in the capital admired her for her skill in managing her husband. I gave her a half-smile and a sidelong glance. Once I had been harmed by chastity, so naturally I didn't want to use the same method against a woman. But that didn't mean I was going to let her off the hook. Dear sister, I've left you a grand gift. I hope you like it. 3 days after the wedding, when she returned to her family home, Yue Qing's face couldn't hide her exhaustion. The Duke turned a blind eye, simply drinking one cup after another. Not a single laugh could be heard throughout the entire banquet. Only I ate with hearty relish. After the meal, the Duke and Lin Mingzhu went to the front courtyard. Grandmother quickly comforted Yue Qing. Most men in this world are fickle-hearted. You must keep your composure. Once you give birth to a legitimate son, everything will be fine. When Yue Qing heard the words legitimate son, tears fell from her eyes. On their wedding night, the Duke had stormed off in anger and had never entered her room again. Grandmother, unaware of the true reason, thought the Duke was taking out his anger on Yue Qing because of the Emperor's reprimand, and so she taught her many ways to win people over. No man is immune to the allure of beauty. As a proper wife, if you arrange a few concubines for him, in time, he will naturally come to appreciate your virtues. As long as no illegitimate children are born, concubines are nothing more than lowly playthings. They can't stir up any real trouble. Yue Qing nodded with tears in her eyes. But just a month later, the Duke grew even more debauched, ignoring the women in his household and instead visiting the Southern Breeze Pavilion. It was then that Yue Qing realized something was amiss. She immediately rushed to the Lin family's home, weeping and causing a scene. Lin Mingzhu, it was you who harmed the Duke. He. It was a rare opportunity. That day, I not only administered a drug that causes confusion and passion, but I also slipped in some infertility medicine and impotence drugs all at once. It was because I needed to find these drugs that I delayed going out for so long, giving them the chance to catch the affair. I was initially worried that the drugs wouldn't be effective, but now I can finally rest assured. I pouted my lips. Sister, you're slandering me like this. I don't know what to say. Yue Qing frantically lunged at me, looking deranged. Lin Mingzhu, you'll get your retribution. I have no grudge against you. Why are you so cruel to harm me? I immediately dodged, watching her fall to the ground in a sorry state. Although she and the Duke could no longer share a deep marital bond in this life, the Duke remained as indifferent to women as in the previous life. Thinking about it this way, she hadn't really lost anything. I won't let you get away with this, Lin Mingzhu. Yue Qing left after uttering those harsh words. Within days, rumors began circulating in the capital that the legitimate daughter of the Lin family had engaged in an illicit affair and caused her lover's death, coinciding with the discovery of Shen Yuan's remains. Everyone speculated that I was the one who had killed him. They guessed right. But unfortunately, there's no evidence. When Shen Yuan met me, he avoided others. When he went out, I had someone search his room. The letters we exchanged had long been destroyed. No one can prove that I was the last person he saw. There is no evidence to prove that I killed him. After the officials from the capital prefecture came to ask a few questions, the case was closed. It was concluded that Shen Yuan accidentally fell off the cliff. Mother finally saw me, her eyes filled with both hatred and reluctance. Mingzhu, at this point, the rest of your life is already ruined. Is it worth it? I smiled. Mother, would you like to hear a story? Decades of living as a lonely, wandering ghost had already driven me mad. Now, no matter how bad things get, they can't possibly get any worse. Lin Mingzhu snapped out of his melancholy and decided to marry a girl from a humble background, have a son, and raise the next generation, only to discover that he had become a useless man. The Lin family could no longer tolerate me because of this. On the day I left the Lin family, only Mother came to see me off. I gave her one last hug, then walked away without looking back. She would be heartbroken and then slowly forget me, just as she had in my previous life. Chuanchua asked me, Miss, where are we going? I took her into a Taoist temple which I had bought with the private savings I had accumulated from selling my illustrated storybooks. From now on, call me Taoist priest. You are my chief disciple. The Qingfeng temple was small and dilapidated, which was why I could afford it. That night, Chuanxue and I hid in the cellar, narrowly escaping assassination. I knew these were assassins sent by the former duke. He resented me for drugging him and turning him into a eunuch. When I was still in the Lin family, he couldn't easily make a move. But now he finally found his chance. Chuanxue trembled. "Miss, we must flee quickly, far away from here." I patted her head. "No rush." The next day, I finally met the person I had been waiting to see, Lord Zhong from the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. "Miss Lin, is what you said true?" A few days ago, I had sent him a letter warning that the embankment in Huai County would collapse by the end of the month, causing countless casualties. At first, Lord Zhong didn't believe it. It wasn't until yesterday when news of continuous heavy rain in Huai County for half a month reached the capital that Lord Zhong finally took it seriously. In my previous life, as a wandering ghost, I had heard of these major events, and I remember clearly the county of Huai where corpses lay everywhere. I firmly told him, "It is absolutely true. If my words are false, I am willing to accept any punishment. My only request is that you, Lord Zhong, find a way to protect me." Lord Zhong pondered for a moment and then nodded. At the end of the month, the dam in Huai County burst just as I had predicted. Because the residents had been evacuated in advance, the casualties were minimal. The emperor praised me and bestowed upon me the title Virtuous Taoist Priest. Qingfeng Temple became a renowned Taoist temple far and wide, magnificently restored and imposing, and my life was also secured within the imperial palace. I delivered my second prophecy to the emperor. Next May, a great drought will strike Deng Prefecture, leaving the land barren for 1,000 miles. One prophecy after another was issued, and no one in the capital dared to look down on me anymore. When Chuanxue told me that people in the common folk had erected a longevity tablet in my honor, my heart stirred, and the gloom of past and present lives gradually faded away. That day, the sky was clear, and the light shone for thousands of miles. The former duke, Xiao Yu, had long been stripped of his title under the pressure of Lin Mingzhu, and the duke's residence became the Xiao residence. To conceal the fact that he had become a eunuch, Xiao Yu publicly declared that he and Yue Qing were deeply in love and that he would never take a second wife in this lifetime. Even though Yue Qing had not borne any children in 3 years, Xiao Yu did not mind in the slightest. The ladies in the capital all envied Yue Qing for her good fortune. "Madam Xiao, I heard that Lord Xiao has dismissed all his concubines and remains devoted only to you. He truly is one in a million, a remarkable man." Yue Qing forced a stiff smile. What could she say? Should she reveal that although there were no concubines at home, he kept a group of male favorites instead? "He treats you so well. You should be content. At the very least, you ought to give him an heir. I have a secret recipe for conceiving a son here. Take it back and try it. I guarantee it will work." Once again hearing such urging to have children, Yue Qing fled in a panic. Returning to the Xiao residence, she was greeted by the carefree Xiao Yu. "Oh, back so early. Why not stay longer and listen to more of their flattery?" Yue Qing looked at the man sneering at her in front of her, her heart growing cold. Clearly, she had done nothing wrong. So why had she ended up in this situation? Thinking of all the compromises she had made over the years, she finally couldn't hold back and shouted, "I don't even mind that you're a useless person. So why do you keep pushing me so hard?" Xiao Yu sneered coldly. "What right do you have to mind me? If it weren't for you constantly showing me how wronged you were in front of me, why would I have schemed against Lin Mingzhu and ended up being ruined by her? All of this is because of you." Yue Qing's face turned pale. "I never asked you to do those things." "Haha, Yue Qing, what are you still pretending for? If you didn't want me to do it, then why did you tell me about your own sister's private affairs? Admit it. You were very happy when you found out I was scheming against Lin Mingzhu for you, weren't you?" Yue Qing couldn't find the words to refute him because what he said was true. The two of them hated each other. Yet they could only remain entangled like this. The once lively Lin residence no longer held any laughter or joy. Grandmother had become truly alone, while Lin Ru's drowned his sorrows in drink every day. And the most clear-headed of them all was Madame Lin. Now Lin Mingzhu had become the Taoist priest favored by the emperor, saving countless lives. After she sent a few things to Madame Lin, the Lin family understood her intentions. No one in the Lin family dared to look down on her. They all hoped to ease tensions with Lin Mingzhu through her, so that the Lin family could return to its former state. Yet Madame Lin simply sat quietly in the Buddhist hall. She had married into the Lin family so many years ago, given birth to children, supported her husband and raised her family. But now her children were turning against each other, and the family was falling apart. It wasn't until her daughter told her a story that she understood. The causes of the past life bear fruit in the present. Why force what isn't meant to be? Later, Lin Mingzhu sent a letter. Mother, the spring waters of Jiangnan are green. Would you like to go together? Lady Lin finally let go of her worries and with tears in her eyes asked the nanny to pack their luggage. Over 40 years old and only now did she get to see the spring scenery. Fortunately, the spring scenery remained as beautiful as ever. 10 years later. The spring breeze carried the scent of incense and peach blossoms through the grand halls of Qingfeng Temple. I stood at the highest pavilion, overlooking the capital that had once whispered my name in scandal, and now chanted it in reverence. Virtuous Taoist priest Lin Mingzhu. The woman who predicted floods, droughts, and plagues. The woman who saved tens of thousands of lives. Chuanxue, no longer a trembling maid but my capable deputy priestess, approached with a smile. Master, you have visitors. I turned and my heart warmed. Mother stood there. Her hair now silver but her face peaceful in a way I'd never seen in my previous life. Beside her, a young girl of about 8 years old, bright-eyed and curious. Mingzhu. Mother embraced me, and I breathed in the scent of jasmine tea and contentment. We've come for the spring festival. I wanted little Yue to meet her aunt. I knelt before the child, my half-sister born to one of father's concubines after everything fell apart. Unlike in my previous life where only bitterness remained, father had tried to rebuild what little dignity the Lin family had left. This child, named after the moon rather than my wretched stepsister, represented a new beginning. And is it true you can see the future? The little girl asked, her eyes wide. I smiled, touching her nose gently. I can see what people refuse to see. The consequences of their choices. Remember that, little Yue. Every action has a price. Some people pay willingly. Others I collect from personally. Mother watched us with soft eyes. You've become everything I hoped for you, Mingzhu. Not a duchess trapped in a loveless marriage but free. Powerful. Your own person. I took her hand. In Jiangnan, mother had finally learned to paint, to write poetry, to live for herself. She had become the woman she was meant to be before the Lin family buried her under duty and disappointment. How is father? I asked, though I already knew. Mother sighed. He manages the family affairs quietly. Your brother never recovered. I nodded. Lin Ru's lived as a recluse now, unable to show his face in society. His brilliant career destroyed by his own schemes. The poetry of it never failed to satisfy me. And grandmother? Mother's expression darkened. She passed last winter. Alone. Ninglan never visited, you know. Even at the end. I felt nothing. No sorrow. No vindication. Just emptiness where hatred used to live. She made her choices. Speaking of choices, Chuanxue interjected carefully. The Xiao household sent another request. Lady Xiao wishes to see you. Ah, Yue Qing. My dear stepsister. I had heard the rumors, of course. In 10 years she had not produced a single child. Xiao Yu, the once proud duke, spent his days in bitter solitude. Unable to consummate his marriage, unable to take concubines without revealing his shame, unable to divorce Yue Qing without admitting the truth. She had everything she wanted. A powerful husband, legitimate status, a grand household. And yet she had nothing. No children to secure her position. No love to comfort her. No future beyond watching other women birth sons while her womb remained empty, not through any fault of her own, but because I had ensured her husband could never give her one. Tell Lady Xiao I will see her, I said finally. Chuanxue raised her eyebrows in surprise, but I simply smiled. It was time. 3 days later Yue Qing arrived at Qingfeng Temple. I barely recognized her. The timid, delicate beauty had transformed into a hollow-eyed woman, who looked a decade older than her 27 years. Her expensive robes hung loosely on her thin frame. Her hands trembled as she bowed before me. Taoist priest Lin. Her voice was hoarse as if she hadn't spoken in days. I need your help. I gestured for her to sit. We were alone in my private chamber, surrounded by scrolls of prophecies and astronomical charts. Tea I offered and watched her flinch. I couldn't help but smile. Don't worry. This tea is just tea. She didn't touch it anyway. I'm dying, she said bluntly. The physicians don't know what's wrong. But I know. I'm being eaten alive from the inside by guilt, by regret, by everything I did to you. I need you to forgive me. She broke down, sobbing. I need this to stop. I watched her cry with the detachment of someone observing rain. Do you know what I did in my previous life after you stole everything from me? She looked up confused. Previous life. I leaned forward. I became a ghost, Yue Qing. I wandered the Lin residence for decades, unable to move on. I watched you laugh. I watched you wear my dowry. I watched you sleep in a bed that should have been mine. And I watched you pretend you had done nothing wrong. You're insane. Her voice shook. No. I smiled. I'm reborn. And you're not dying from guilt, sister. You're dying from choices. You chose to covet what wasn't yours. You chose to whisper my secrets to a man who used them to destroy me. You chose to stand by while grandmother registered you as a legitimate daughter behind mother's back. You chose to say nothing when you knew what the Duke and my brother planned for me. I didn't know they would, she started. Liar. My voice was soft but sharp as a blade. You knew. You hoped. You prayed for it. And when it happened, you shed one single tear and called it mourning. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally I spoke again. You're not dying, Yue Qing. You're just finally feeling the weight of the life you built on my corpse. And no, I won't forgive you. I don't need to. Forgiveness would imply you matter enough to hold resentment toward. You don't. You're simply a woman who made terrible choices and now must live with them. Just as I had to die with mine. Then why did you agree to see me? Her eyes were desperate. Because I wanted you to know something. I stood, walking to the window that overlooked the blooming gardens. In my previous life I died believing I was worthless. That my life had no meaning beyond being a pawn in everyone else's games. But in this life I've saved thousands. I've advised the emperor. I've prevented disasters. I've become someone who matters. I turned back to her. And you? You're still exactly who you were 10 years ago. A woman defined entirely by what man she belongs to. You have wealth, status, a household. But you have no purpose. No legacy. When you die, you'll be remembered as that duchess who couldn't produce an heir. That's the difference between us, sister. I chose to become more than my circumstances. You chose to become less. Yue Qing stood on trembling legs. I shouldn't have come. No, I agreed. You shouldn't have. But you did because you still think I'm the soft-hearted sister who felt sorry for you. I'm not. She's dead. You made sure of that. As she left, I called out one last time. Yue Qing. She paused at the door without turning. In another life, we might have been true sisters. We might have protected each other instead of destroying each other. But grandmother raised you to be envious. And you chose to be malicious. Don't come back here. There's nothing left between us but ashes. The door closed softly. That evening, as I performed the sunset rituals, Chuanxue approached again. Master, there's one more visitor. Lord Zhong from the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. I smiled. The emperor probably wanted another prophecy. Lord Zhong entered, bowing deeply. But there was something different in his expression today. Not the usual respect, but something warmer. Taoist priest Lin, he began, then hesitated. Mingzhu, may I speak freely? I nodded, intrigued. Over these 10 years I've watched you save countless lives. I've watched you turn tragedy into purpose. You're the most remarkable woman I've ever known. He took a breath. I know you've devoted yourself to the temple, but would you consider allowing someone to share your life? Not as a wife or a subordinate, but as an equal. I stared at him, genuinely surprised. Lord Zhong was a widower, a kind man who had always treated me with respect rather than reverence. He was perhaps 40 years old, wise and gentle. Are you asking what I think you're asking? He smiled ruefully. I'm asking if you'd consider that not all men are like those who hurt you. I'm asking if you'd allow yourself happiness, Mingzhu. Not as revenge, not as duty, but simply because you deserve it. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt something crack open in my chest. Not love, not yet. But possibility. I've spent so long building walls, Lord Zhong. I'm not sure I remember how to let someone in. Then don't, he said simply. Just let me stand outside the walls and appreciate the garden you've built. If one day you feel like opening the gate, I'll be there. If not, I'll still consider knowing you the greatest honor of my life. I laughed, genuinely laughed for the first time in years. You're either incredibly patient or incredibly foolish. Perhaps both, he admitted with a grin. I'll take my chances. Another 5 years passed. Lord Zhong kept his word, never pushing, never demanding, just present. Slowly, so slowly I barely noticed, the walls came down. We married in a quiet ceremony with only mother, little Yue, and a few close disciples attending. No grand dowry. No imperial decree. Just 2 people who had found each other in the aftermath of storms. I never bore children, whether from the drugs I'd taken that day or simply fate's design. But I didn't need to. Little Yue grew up partly under my guidance, becoming a scholar in her own right. Mother lived to see her 80th year, finally passing peacefully in her sleep in Jiangnan, having lived more in her final 20 years than in all the years before combined. Lin Mingzhu died alone and unmourned at 45, his body ravaged by alcohol and regret. Father died shortly after, the Lin family name fading into obscurity. I did not attend either funeral. Xiao Yu lost what remained of his fortune gambling and drinking, desperately trying to prove his manhood in other ways. He died in a brothel at 50, and even then, the rumors said he died unable to perform. The poetry of his demise was almost too perfect. And Yue Qing? She lived. That was her punishment. She lived as a widow in all but name, in a grand empty house, with servants who pitied her and a husband who could barely look at her without remembering his shame. She lived watching other women my age become grandmothers while her arms remained empty. She lived knowing that everything she'd schemed for had turned to ash in her hands. She lived until she was 60, and when she finally died, I heard it was in the same room where she'd spent her wedding night, still waiting for a happiness that would never come. I did not attend her funeral either. On my 60th birthday, I stood once more in the pavilion overlooking the capital. My hair was silver now, like mother's had been. Lord Zhong stood beside me, his hand warm in mine. Chuanxue, now the head priestess, managed the temple's daily affairs. Qingfeng Temple had become the most respected religious institution in the empire. Do you have any regrets? Lord Zhong asked softly. I considered the question carefully. I regret that I had to die to learn how to live. I regret that my family could only value me after I stopped needing their validation. I regret that revenge, while satisfying, cannot undo the past. But do I regret what I did? I turned to look at him. No. They taught me that the world is cruel to women who don't fight back. So I fought back. And I won. What will you tell the emperor when he asks for your next prophecy? He asked. I smiled, that same cold smile that had terrified my enemies for decades. I'll tell him the truth. That the greatest disasters aren't floods or droughts or plagues. They're people who mistake kindness for weakness, who confuse silence for consent, who believe they can destroy others without consequence. And then I'll remind him that for every action, there is a reaction. For every scheme there is a reckoning. And some debts take a lifetime to pay. I looked out over the city one last time, at the thousands of people living their lives, unaware of how close they'd come to disasters I'd prevented, how many times my prophecies had saved them. In my first life I was a footnote in someone else's story. In this life I wrote my own legend. That husband is victory enough. If you enjoyed this story of revenge and rebirth, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical tales. What do you think about Lin Mingzhu's actions? Were they justified? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, may your own story be one of justice and redemption.